with some students to come across here, and then students from here to go back.
Oh,
to here.
PCN has taken over James Cook University. Hey, clap lah! This is the time to clap. But only for tonight, because we have very good partners who trust us. That's why they let us take over for a while. And I'm only given 2 minutes to take over. Funny, huh? Okay, I hope you had a good meal. Except for a few who have not, you are welcome to take some food and help yourself a bit. They're so shy. This is one of the initiatives that PCF decided to do because we want to identify good programs out there that we can benefit from. And later on, Dr. Margaret Ann Carter will introduce Dr. Pamela, who's here only for a week. Right? So since she's here, hey, let's choke her. In perfect Singlish, we choke her. Say reserve. Say, hey, please, why don't we do this so that we can learn from you and we can learn from one another. So we want to register our appreciation to James Cook University for working with us to make sure that we can be better professionals out there. Yes? And we always believe in LLL. What's LLL? Oh, you're thinking of the 6 dimensions. Not in Hokkien, luan lai, anyhow. It's lifelong learning, yes? Lifelong learning, triple L. Yeah, lifelong learning. So again, there are lots of courses by James Cook University, and you'll find them in the bag that they give you. And for tonight, you also get a certificate. Not bad, huh? Teachers' Day, I already spoke to boss. Everybody will get something that will be useful for your certificates. It's called paperclip. Okay, so again, thank you very much, Dr. Margaret Ann Carter and Dr. Pam. And
my name is Margaret Ann Carter. I am the coordinator of the Masters of Education and the Masters of Guidance and Counselling here at James Cook University. We've been going for 8 years in terms of the Masters of Guidance and Counselling, and we've had a slow start with the Masters of Education, but we have started full on this year, and Pam is one of our lecturers who's here working with our students. So if you are interested, there's an open day, there's also a course preview on education in a couple of months, so if you're interested you can follow that up. But in terms of, I guess, I think Pam, before I formally introduce her, as I was thinking about tonight, I've just put down a few notes for myself to say as I'm an early years educator like yourself, and one of the challenges I've got is that we've moved from the era of children being dependent on us as adults to children being active in their own learning. And as Thomas talks about, we are lifelong learners. The moment we think as an adult that we know everything, that's what we say in Australia, is the first nail in our coffin. Because we've closed our eyes and we've limited ourselves. So the biggest challenge as educators is to remain contemporary, to be reflective, and to leave a legacy with the children that you work with. A legacy that you're proud of, and a legacy that will make a positive difference in the life of children. Tonight is part of our professional development series that we have here at James Cook University. We have one purely for your organisation, and we're thrilled to partner with you, and would be happy to have more that would be exclusive for your community if you see that it adds value. So we have one in a couple of weeks as well, and it's on literacy, and there's some information in the little bag that you've been given. But what I'd like to do now is I'll stop saying that and introduce to you Dr. Pam Hannafin. Pam comes to us, highly recommended. She is an independent education consultant working in Australia, has worked with the Australian Catholic University for over 9 years in the area of early years education, has worked probably for 15 years before then in the area of literacy and early years as a teacher and as a consultant. And so she comes to us with a theory background, but also something that I think you'll really appreciate, that ability to be a practitioner like yourself. Because we lose our credibility as practitioners if we don't have a theory base. We need to be able to articulate why we do what we do. And Pam has a fantastic ability to marry the theory with the practice. So it's a great opportunity. Pam has been lecturing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night. Today is her night off, and so she's here. Tomorrow night we're just having a meal, a celebrating meal, and then Saturday and Sunday she is lecturing all day, finishing at 5 o'clock on Sunday night, and then on the flight home to Australia at 9:25 in the evening. So we are very fortunate to have her.
And I'm having a bad hair day today.
So without further ado, may I ask you to welcome Pam.
Just before I start, I'll just make sure that you could read that with the lights. That's probably, yeah, that's the next one. That's right. Thank you. Before I start, and thank you, Margie, for the lovely introductory words, I'd just like to say how thrilled I am to be here. Early years, early childhood, talking about teaching and learning with young children and engaging them in learning is not work. And I'm sure for all of you who are in that area, for you there's a passion to it, there's something you love, that you do it because you love it, you do it because you believe in it, and that's what I feel with early childhood. And so I'm coming from that perspective, and I'm sure you are too, as we start to talk about different aspects of children's learning. And Thomas, I think Thomas, you were mentioning about the lifelong learner and about us all being lifelong learners, and that's particularly so, but our children too, particularly in today's world, we need to be supporting and nurturing them as lifelong learners, as well as supporting and nurturing ourselves and each other in what we're doing as their teachers, as young children's teachers. So that's the perspective I'd like to come from, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. I do get excited about early childhood, so I try not to talk too much, but I know somebody is going to stop me so that we can finish at a reasonable hour this evening. Rather than giving you my PowerPoint slides, I wrote some articles, or adapted them from articles that I've had published for you, because I felt that that gave more of a conversation of me talking to you when you go away to look at them, rather than the isolated just nature of a few points. So I've put together a few reflective articles on what I'll be talking about, and also some practical examples that I've begged, stealed, stolen, borrowed, gleaned from years and years of experience and from some of the students that I've worked with. So there's some practical ideas in there, because all teachers like the practical as well as the theoretical, I found. So I hope they'll be helpful, and I hope you'll be able to share with each other and add to those. To start off with though, I'd like to look at a little quote from Reggio Emilia. And I really chose this because I think it tells us a lot when we're talking about how we are approaching teaching and learning and what we do with the children in our care. So we're coming from the perspective that children are strong, they're rich and they're capable. So we're looking at them as that, and they have the potential and the curiosity and the interest to construct their learning. So they are active. To construct something, you have to be active. So they're able to actively engage in what they're doing and negotiate within their world. Indeed, they've been doing this since they were born. And sometimes when we get them into schooling or into an institutionalised frame of learning, sometimes we feel that the learning is starting there, whereas the learning has begun from birth. So we are nurturing and building on children as strong, rich and capable. And in Australia, we've had a huge lot of work done to come away from a deficit view of children as children who, we have to teach them everything and they know nothing, to that sense that children are very, very capable and they have potential for learning. So that's another frame of reference. Tonight, I hope we'll be able to look at ways of actively engaging our children, look at the what, why, when and how, of looking at meaningful context for learning. Yes? Do you need the mic? You can't hear me down the back?
You can't see that, right?
No, it's okay.
I don't like microphones.
Okay.
Yes, you won't really need to be reading anything much because it's all put down for you as we go along. And I want us to be able to reflect, because what I say hopefully will be useful, but it's what you can see the relevance of it for in terms of your own professional practice and context. Because every context is different, because your children or your students and the area that you're working in is different. So it has to be relevant to your situation and you need to make it so. There's an activity there in the book that you might want to do later. Because we've started a little later, I'm going to leave that reflective activity, but it could be helpful to ask yourselves what your own assumptions are about how children learn. How do they learn? What do you believe is the key element, are some of the key elements about how children do learn? Because how we believe and what we name is actually going to come through in our practice. So did anyone want to add anything in to communicate with us? Children learn by
playing.
Sorry?
Playing. Children learn by playing.
Playing, by playing, yes. Anyone else?
Imitating.
Imitating, excellent.
Observe.
Yeah, observing, watching. So we've got the playing, the observing, the imitating, the listening, oftentimes, and that's from their peers as well as the adults. So our assumptions on how we believe these children learn can really come back and reflect on what we do. So the second part is how do we promote and support their learning? And the third part is how closely related are our beliefs about how children learn to what we actually do. So if we believe children learn through play, are we promoting play in our practice? If we believe they learn through imitation, are we giving them opportunities to be able to observe and imitate others? So it all comes back to ensuring that what we say we do or believe is actually coming through in practice. Now, I've got this here, an activity, the card shop, and there's examples of this right at the back of your handout, which you won't be able to see because you're in the dark, like in the theatre. But there are some examples there of how you might use an activity such as a news agency or a card shop with your students. This would not be relevant to young children, any younger than probably 4 or 5. But I actually went back to school this year because I'm retired and from my tertiary academic job, and I went back to actually teach for a little while because I wanted to ground myself back in the reality with children, and it was a bit of a experience. I went home exhausted every single night, but I still came back to see that children need to create some context with the teacher. And I used the card shop as an example Because lots of children do greetings for birthdays, correct? Lots and lots of greetings. We do greetings for special occasions. If someone's sick, we'll often send a card. If there's a new baby born, we'll send a greeting card. So with the children, we created a card shop where every child created a card, a birthday card, to greet another child. But rather than giving them out, we just did it. They all made one and put it into a card shop. So that when it was a child's birthday, someone could select the card and present it to the child through the year. So then the children decided that they would make some more cards. So then we started making baby cards, and then they started making get well cards, and then they started making lots and lots of greeting cards. Then they decided to do envelopes to go with it. Then they created stamps and a little post office to go with it. Then they did weighing. So there was a lots and lots of learning that came from the simple little activity of creating a card to greet a child with a birthday. And it was amazing, the learning that came through. We had the play, as somebody mentioned there. We had lots of talking. We had lots of investigating to find out shapes. They even priced some of the cards. Big cards cost more, although we weren't actually charging it, but in their play-based situation, that came through. The writing, the literacy skills had to come through, because either I scribed the greeting, or they found greetings in old other cards, or they used stamps, or they had some different way of doing it, but the word had meaning. And that's the precursor to formal reading. The formation of letters and sounds has meaning. So they could actually create up the shop. Now I found that was a really, really useful activity, and it worked with children. And my class, well, the children were 5, and I've seen it work with children in preschool in Australia, and those children are about 4 going into prep. So there's an example, and I wanted to just start off with a practical example to say, when we're looking at creating meaningful context for learning, we don't need to go to something extravagant. It's in the simple, everyday things that we're doing day in, day out that has meaning. And the activity had meaning because it was relevant to the children and they owned it. It was their card shop. It was for their friends, their family, and so they had an ownership in it, and they were engaged. In fact, they were very engaged. We had too many cards for our card shop, and we had to stop making quite so many for a time. We were losing all the resources. Just to let you see that we're basing tonight's discussion around some theory. It is on socio-cultural theory, where we're looking at diverse backgrounds. There's an example with the card shop that we do celebrate special occasions, so that comes through. Constructivism, building on and building from. Children aren't blank slates. We are building on, building from continually, and brain-based research, which